Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift. Chapter 4. Escape from Lilliput. One day the emperor and his young prince started that they would like to dine with me. Of course, I accepted and placed them all on my table while I sat in my chair. They were full of admiration when they saw how much I could eat, and to show them that the English could do great things, that evening I ate more than usual, and that is when my downfall started. As I have told you, one of the emperor's great men, Cyrus Bologam, the admiral of the empire, disliked me. Soon he had turned quite a few of the other ministers against me. One of them was the treasurer, Flimpnap, who is already against me because his lovely wife would come to my house often and talk to me about various things. His jealousy turned into hatred, and soon he was telling the emperor that my stay in their country was proving to be too expensive for the treasury. He was present at the dinner I had with the emperor, and while I was eating, he pointed out to the emperor that there was hardly money in the treasury, and the country had lost a lot of money since my arrival there, and it would be a good idea if I was dismissed as soon as possible. I was preparing to leave for my visit to Blefuscu when one evening I had a visit from one of the high of the members of court. He was a friend of mine because I had been of help to him once, and he said he had something of a secret nature to tell me. I dismissed my servants for the night and took his lordship inside my house. I placed him on the table and I sat on my chair so I could hear and see him. After greeting me, he said he was worried about me and had come to warn me of danger to my life. I will write down his own words of what he told me. You know that Cyrus Bologam, the admiral, has been your enemy ever since you arrived. And now, after your victory against the Bellifudians, he is even more against you because of your success. Means he gets no glory, even though he is just the imperial of the imperial navy. And there are now also against you Flipmap the treasurer, Imtok the general, Lalkulan the chamberlain, and Balmuff the chief justice. They have prepared a list of crimes that you have committed, in which they have presented to the emperor. Out of gratitude for you, I am telling you this. I have got the copy of the list with me, and I shall read out the crimes you are supposed to have been committed. Article 1. That the Mountain, after having brought a whole fleet of our enemy, the Bellifudians, and after being afterwards commanded by the emperor to reduce the enemy's empire to state of Lilliput, refused to do so, and like a traitor asked the imperial majesty to excuse him from this act. Article 2. That the Mountain, when the ambassadors of the enemy arrived for a peace treaty, like a traitor comforted and helped the enemies, although he knew them to be the servants of a prince who was till recently open enemy of his imperial majesty and in open war against him. Article 3. That the Mountain is now preparing a voyage to the enemy land, for which he has got permission only verbally, and does falsely and traitorously mean to visit the empire of Blefuscu to help them in the war against his imperial majesty. There are some more articles, but these are the main ones. When the council discussed this, His Majesty wanted to be as lenient as he could in view of the work you had done for the country and him. But as the other ministers and higher officials who wanted you out of the country wanted him to be strict, they felt that you should be poisoned to death, or that your house should be put in fire at the night you were asleep, or that 20,000 poisoned arrows should be shot at you. At this point, your friend Redrussell spoke. He said that he felt His Majesty should show his greatness by being more gentle with you and by giving a less harsh punishment. He said that you could have done a lot of work for the empire and you could still do so. He suggested that if His Majesty wanted to punish you, it should be done by blinding your eyes so that you would not be able to see. You would still be able to help the empire. The others were not in favor of this suggestion and vetoed it. It was finally decided that no one would put you to death. Officially, you would be blinded. At the same time, your rations would be slowly reduced so that in time you would starve to death. By this method, you would be so thin that when you died, your carcass would not be too much of bother and you could be cut into pieces and buried far from the city. In 3 days, your friend Redisel will come to you with the statement and judgment which will condemn to you blindness. 20 of His Majesty's surgeons will attend to you and in an operation blind you with small arrows as you lie on the ground. Saying so, the Lord left my house as quietly as he had come. I was naturally very frightened because I had thought of that except for Bologram, no one hated me so much that they would want me to die. I had thought of several methods of saving myself, even though I would fight in case in a trail, but later came to realize that it would be useless. I also realized that my time with the Lilliputians was over and I must escape as soon as I could. After all, I had to think about myself and my eyes. And I one day wanted to return to my own beloved country, England, to see my wife and children. I decided to take advantage of His Majesty's permission and go to Blefuscu and start making preparations. I sent a letter to my friend Redisel telling them I was going to Blefuscu for a while to fool them into thinking that I would come back. I went to the harbour where the fleet was anchored and taking up one of the warships, put some of my clothes and waded to Blefuscu. On my arrival at the royal port of Blefuscu, I was given a grand welcome because they had expecting me for days. I did not tell them that I was in disgrace and made not to mention of the summons against me. I was directed to the capital, which was also called Blefuscu, where the emperor and the empress welcomed me, and I kneeled to kiss their hands. 3 days after my arrival there, I was walking on the shore when I saw something in the sea. I pulled off my shoes and socks and waded to the sea. When I reached it, I saw to my surprise and pleasure that there was a real boat and it had been overturned by some accident or the other. Turning it over, I saw it not been damaged too badly and I would be able to repair it. I was very happy at this because now I could leave this place and make my way home. I asked His Majesty to let me repair the boat. At first, he tried to persuade me to stay with them forever, but he gave me the permission to do the repairs and ordered his men to help me. In the meantime, the Lilliputians had realized I was not going to return to them on my own, and that someone had told me of the judgment. An ambassador was sent to Blefuscu court to see the emperor. The ambassador said that I was a traitor to the empire of Lilliput and I should be handed over to them, bound hand and foot. The emperor told the ambassador that it would be impossible for his men to tie me up if I did not want to be bound. He reassured him that I would be soon leaving their country and that I was no longer a problem to their country. With this answer, the ambassador returned to Lilliput. My new master soon called me and told me I could stay as long as I want because he was fond of me, felt I could help him and his country. But by this time I had enough of court politics and did not want to be let down again. So I politely refused his offer and pleaded with him to let me repair the boat I had found so I could leave as soon as possible. 500 workmen were ordered to make 2 sails for the boat by folding 13 lengths of cloth to make it strong enough for the boat. 4 ropes and cables, I twisted 20 of 30 of their strong ones. I found a big stone while on a walk along the shore which made it an anchor. For paddles, I cut down many of the large trees with the help of the royal carpenters, made mats also. In about a month, I was ready to leave. The emperor and the royal family came out of the palace to see me off. His Majesty gave me 50 purses of gold pieces and a full length picture of himself, which I immediately put in my glove so that it would not get wet. There were many more ceremonies which I did not relate, as the reader might find them boring and too long. For food, I was served with grasses of 100 oxen and 300 sheep, and as much as bread and I drink, and as much cooked food as 400 cooks would make. I took with me 6 cows and 2 bulls alive, as many ewes and rams, so that I could show them in England and breed them there. I took a big bundle of hay and a bag for corn of them. The emperor forbade me to take any of his people, and if they wanted to go, they made me swear I would not do so. I set sail on 24th day of September 1701 at 6 in the morning. I kept sailing northward when I reached the island and spent a day there. The next morning I ate my breakfast before the sun rose and set sail. I steered the same course I had the day before, and the next day I spotted a sail. I can imagine my joy when I saw a British flag, the flag of my beloved country. I was overjoyed to climb on the ship which had stopped for me. I had put the little live animals in my pocket. When the captain of the ship asked me where I had been and what were my adventures, he thought I was mad when I told him my story. Luckily for me, there was on the ship the man I recognized, who told the captain who I was. When we entered his cabin for dinner, I took out the cattle and showed them to him. He couldn't believe his eyes for some time, but had to believe my story. We arrived in England on 13th of April 1702. The only bad luck I had during the trip was that the rats on the boat carried away one of my sheep. I later found her bones in the rat hole in the ship. The rest of the cattle I got home safely, and they took to the English grass quite well. In a short time that I had in England, showed them several persons of quality, and before I started my next voyage, I sold them for £600. My sheep have multiplied to a quite large number. I hope they would benefit the woolen industry in the company by their softness of the fleece. I stayed in England for 2 months because my desire to travel was still strong. I left a good amount of money with my wife and bought a house in Red Riff, where I stay now. My uncle John had also left me some money and an estate, so my family would be well provided for. I left my family, my son, daughter, and my beloved life with much sorrow and tears, and both sides went on board the Adventure, a merchant ship bound for Surat, but the part of my travels which I shall deal in my next few chapters.